Hi kindergartners, welcome to art. You need a piece of paper and something to write with, whether it's a pen or a pencil, and we'll get started. Today we're going to draw a tree and we're going to include lots of detail in our tree. I know that when you do your writing you try to include lots of details about your topic, so we're going to do that in art today. So the first thing we'll do is we will draw the trunk of our tree. So I'm going to make two lines near the middle of my paper, and they can kind of curve out a little bit at the top. Okay, after you have your two lines, then we're going to draw from those two lines, we're going to go out even farther so they're longer curved lines. So it's a little bit like the letter Y, but just separated out. Okay, then we're going to come from the point of one of our lines, we're going to come back in like this, and then we're going to curve around and come back out in a new direction. And then we're going to come down again and curve up in a new direction like this. And then we're going to come down again. Now this time we're going to try to connect back with our point on this side. So we're going to go down and connect. So I have 4 branches, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's okay if you have a different number of branches. Every tree is different. So whatever you ended up with is great. And then on the sides of my branches, because trees have more than 4 branches, right? So I'm going to add some more branches. So I do a line up and another line up that comes to a point. Okay, let's do some other smaller branches coming off the sides here. So this is one of our details. We're adding small branches to our big branches. Okay, so we've got our tree with our pointy branches, and this is how trees are. They start thick, and then as the branches go out, they get thinner. All right, now another detail I'm going to add are some blossoms. So I was looking at a tree in my neighborhood, and it has little flowers growing on all the branches. So for near the ends of my branches, I'm just going to start drawing little flowers by doing petals like this. I did 5 petals for mine, but basically it's just like 5 little circles or teardrop shapes that have all the same middle. And I'm just going to put these coming off the branches. Now here's one that's not connected, so I'm just going to go back and put a little line to connect it like that. Because some of the blossoms are not connected by very much. They're just growing off of a tiny little twig. So this is another one of my details for my tree. So I'll go ahead and draw these blossoms all over. And remember, you can just draw a line to connect it back to the branch if you draw it too far out. So we're making a spring tree right here because that's what it is right now. When I first noticed this tree, it had only half of the blossoms had opened and half of them were still closed. So after I draw some open ones, I'll go back and I'll show you what the other ones looked like that were closed. All right, here are my blossoms. Okay, I'm gonna go back in and show you what they looked like the ones that were closed, they just looked like one petal, like one little circle. So, kind of like this. See that one right here? That's just a circle and a line. So that's the blossom that hasn't opened yet. It's going to be a flower, but it hasn't become one. So all over my tree branches now I'm just putting these little blossoms. That's what I liked about this tree, was that it had some blossoms that were open and some that weren't yet. Okay, so I don't know, the blossoms are opening quickly. By the time you watch this video, maybe they'll all be open on the trees in your neighborhood. But so you could draw it that way too if you want. I looked up about trees and blossoms and leaves, and I found out that some trees have, they get their flowers first before their leaves, and some trees get leaves first, and maybe they get flowers later. So you can think about a tree that you know, and if it's different than this one, you could draw it the way that it is the one that you see. Okay, another detail I'm going to add is the pattern of, or the texture of the bark on the tree. So this tree has kind of rough bark, so I'm going to be doing some zigzag, jagged lines like this, kind of curvy lines, maybe like lightning a little bit. I'm going to draw those up and down my tree here. So now it looks like it's rough. Like if you touched it, it would be rough. Then another detail I'm going to add is where the tree is growing. So first, right around this tree, there's dirt, and then there's some grass growing. It's a tree near the road, so it's kind of by the sidewalk. So I'll probably put that in behind it. So first, we've got the dirt where the tree is planted. And then we have some grass off to the side, both sides. So for my grass, I drew jagged lines like this. And I'm going to add a little bit of grass by the tree too. Some grass that snuck in to this dirt part. All right, and then I'd like to put my sidewalk here. Okay, so actually, this is the road, actually. Here's my road, here's the grass and the tree, and then the sidewalk is back behind it. So to draw it behind, I'm going to do a straight line that almost runs into the tree, but then it stops when it hits the tree. And then on the other side, it comes out and keeps going like this. All right, so can you see I have my sidewalk back here? And then this will be my grass and dirt where the tree's growing. And then here's the road. And then back behind here, that's just where you can decide if you want to do a house back here, an apartment, or just the sky. That would be fine too. All right, so I'm going to sign my name. Sign your name in the bottom right corner. And while you're doing that, I'll make a copy of mine. And today, I am going to choose paint this time to color in my picture. If you have paint at home, you can use paint too. If you don't have paint, then if you want to use crayons, markers, colored pencils, or whatever you have. Anything will work. I just wanted to give you an example of paint today. So I'll just be using a regular watercolor set like this. I have my brush, my paint, it's dry right now, and some water in a cup. And then I have a paint shirt here, but you could use a napkin or whatever, something that I could wipe my brush on if I need to. So I'm going to get my brush wet. And remember, when we paint with watercolor, we have to get water to make the paint work. I bet you knew that. So I'm going to take my brush and start by actually getting my paper wet where the sky is. And if you have something under your paper, that's a good idea to protect whatever surface you're painting on. So maybe you need to get like a magazine or newspaper or something and put it under your paper so that your water doesn't go onto the table. Okay, so I'm going to get all of my background wet. This is called a wash. So we're getting the whole sky wet here. And then I'm trying not to get it on the tree. I don't want the tree to be wet right now, just the background, because this is going to be my sky and I want this part to be blue. Okay, so now that my paper's wet there, I'm going to get lots of water on my brush and get some paint. And then I'm just going to start putting it on my sky, and I'm going to spread it out with my water. You can see that my paper's starting to get a little wrinkly or wiggly because it's wet, and that's okay, that's normal. That's because I'm using this regular paper. If you have any watercolor paper at home, you could definitely use that, and it's a little stronger paper. But if not, it's okay. It's okay if it gets a little wrinkly. And wherever my paper kind of dried up, I'm getting more water on my brush, more water, more paint. The water makes the paint spread out. I want my paint to spread out through the whole sky. So I keep getting more water. The only thing you have to be careful about is if you get too much water, then the paper can rip. So be careful. If you have a wet paper, don't scrub it too hard. It might rip, and then you might have to tape it back together if it does, or just have a hole. Alright, so here's this side. Almost done with that. We've talked about brush strokes before. Make sure that you're holding your brush where you have control. So maybe it's, if you have control back here, that's good. If you want to hold it closer like a pencil, then that works too. All right, so here's my sky. You can see that it's pretty much filled in. And then now I'm going to go back in and do some details for the tree. So I liked painting that way with having it wet first for my sky. So I'm going to do another little wash on my tree trunk. So I'm going to get it all wet. And then I will paint over it with brown. This tree is kind of a brownish gray. but I'm going to use brown first, and then I might add a little black. Let's see. Okay, here's my tree. See how some parts are lighter and some parts are darker? That's what real trees look like, so that's good. Okay, so then my flowers, the flowers on my tree, they were actually white on the real tree, but I've seen a lot of trees that have fun pink and purple blossoms, so I'm going to change mine, and yellow too, I've seen that. I'm actually going to do mine kind of pink, just for fun so you can see it a little better. And to make pink, I only have red in my palette, here my paints, so I just have to get my red wet and mix it with some water to make it pink. Looks like I got too much water here, so I'm going to try to spread it out. There we go. Just put little dots here for the pink. If you get some extra, you could use it over in another spot. There's my pink blossoms. All right. You can see that something, they're kind of blending out. It's kind of a cool look. Okay, so now, that's because the background's wet. Now I'm going to go get my sidewalk wet back here. And that one is going to be gray, so I'm going to get my black. I have the lid here, so I'm getting more water in my black, so that way when I paint with it, it's gray instead of black. I'm just mixing it on the side first to make sure it's lighter. I could have done that with the pink too. I could have mixed it on the side first. So that would be a good idea for next time. Light gray. And I'm going to be using the same light gray for the road. Maybe I'll make it a little darker, but pretty much the same idea. I've got my black paint, and I'm getting it wet. I'm mixing water with it to make it lighter. And then it should be gray. So I think you can see what's left, right? We need the dirt and the grass area. I've used a lot of gray here on my paper, which is kind of a more dull color, so I'm going to not do too much brown. I've already got brown here too, so I'll just do a little brown in here for the dirt, but I'm actually going to do more green to give us some brighter colors. So I've got a little dirt there, and then let's go to the green and get my green wet, and I'm going to keep it a bright green, so I'm not going to mix too much water with it. I want it to be really bright. I'm gonna put some in where my dirt was. There's just grass growing in here, even in the middle of the dirt. I've noticed that plants are growing everywhere. Sometimes they're even growing where they're not supposed to, like weeds, dandelions. There were some tulips that were growing in the middle of the lawn. Everything's just growing everywhere right now. It's so fun to see that. Okay, so here's my tree. With my details, I'm showing that it's in the dirt. There's grass in the dirt. There's grass next to the dirt. I have my details of the blossoms on the tree. I showed what color they are. I showed how some blossoms are open and some are closed. And then I showed the sidewalk and the sky. You can tell it's good weather. The sky's blue and the tree is rough. So those are some of my details that I used today. I hope you had fun painting your tree and adding lots of details, and that's something you can do when you write as well. All right, have a good day, and I'll see you later. Bye.